Hi everybody. I hope everyone's night is going good. I'm going to be discussing how teens think. How exciting. But I'm just going to start off at where we start and up to where we are now, starting with sensory motor and formal operation stage, which we're being working with now. So this is Piaget's 4 stages of cognitive development. And the first one, which is sensory motor, what she's in, ages 0 to 2, and this is where babies are getting their senses through different movement, direct sensory and motor contact. So whatever she can touch and see, um, senses. The next stage is pre-operational, and this is where the child is thinking irrational thoughts. This is from 2 to 7 years old, and they're going to be using different symbols to represent object, but they're not really thinking or reasoning logically. The next is concrete operational, 7 to 12 years old. And this is when the child can think logically about concrete objects and can thus add and subtract, and the child also understands conversation. The next is formal operations, which we're going to be in now, and adolescents can reason abstractly and think in hypothetical terms. And according to Piaget, adolescence is a period characterized by formal operations. Just an example of a formal operational thought would be imagining an outcome of a particular activity that has yet to be undertaken, thinking in the future, what if this happens, that will. Formal operational thought in general involves the ability to think in abstract, the ability to combine and classify items, and the ability to use higher order reasoning skills. And I just think of my math class, we had little, they called algorithms, where if you guys watched that video where the kid had to put the sandwich in as many different ways possible, not using like the same category of meat, cheese, and bread. So we did those in math all the time. And then I'm going to talk about information processing perspective and the 5 areas that make that up. And those are attention, memory, speed, organization, and metacognition. And the first one, attention, improvements are seen in selective attention, which is focusing on one stimuli and tuning another one out. And then as well as divided attention, the ability to pay attention to 2 or more stimuli at the same time. And then the next is memory, where improvements are seen in both working and long term. And working is you're going to remember it for about 30 seconds, not very long, and long-term memory is obviously longer. Processing speed. Adolescents think way more quickly than children, and processing speed improves sharply between the age of 5 and middle adolescence, and then levels off at age 15. And it does not appear to change throughout adulthood. Once you get into late adolescence and adulthood, it really doesn't show significant changes. And the next is organization, and adolescents are more aware of their own thought processes and can use mnemonic devices. These are techniques for remembering something more easily. Chunking, if you've ever heard of that term. I always thought of different words that were kind of related to like my science words. I don't know, I'm trying to explain it, probably confuses you guys, but if it was a hard science term and I could put it with duck, like conducting. One of my kids in my class was thinking about a duck and a duck rubbing together, so conducting, I don't know, just stuff like that. And then I'm going to touch on metacognition, where this is where adolescents can think about thinking itself, and this often involves monitoring one's own cognitive activity during the thinking process. Metacognition provides the ability to plan ahead, see the future consequences of actions you take, and provide alternative explanations of events. And this results in increased introspection, sorry, my dog, self-consciousness, and intellectualization. Adolescents understand that we do not have complete control over our mental activity. Being able to introspect may lead to 2 forms of egocentrism, which imaginary audience and personal fable are the 2. An imaginary audience is when adolescents believe everyone is listening to him or her. I always think of the example, if you have a zit and you go to school and you just think, oh my gosh, everyone's staring at the zit, when really no one cares. And then the personal fable is which causes adolescents to feel that nothing harmful could ever happen to them. I am invincible, nothing will happen to me. And this kind of happens to be related to risky behavior. They're gonna think they can do whatever they want and they have no consequences. Yeah, so adolescents are more likely to engage in realistic, relativistic thinking, or in other words, are more likely to question others' assertions. They're asking questions and they're gonna. This is a period of questioning authority, so they're not always going to believe what they hear. They're going to question it. I always think of our science class and just wondering about stuff. Hey, maybe. So that's just kind of the gist of what I was going to go over, and then I have some questions for you guys. And those would be, I just want to know if you can think back to a time when you thought you had an imaginary audience, or some difficult times in high school, or I mean middle school, I'm sorry. And maybe a personal fable you can think of that you thought you could do. And I have a couple questions, so just pick whatever ones you want and go off those. And if you ever engaged in risky behavior, you outweigh the rewards and the consequences. Which one's greater? And then the last one I want to ask is, did you have any metacognition tools that aided you in studying? Like the ones where I kind of matched a word to a word, different ways to study. But okay, that's all, and I hope I get some feedback from you guys. I'm excited to see, but have a good rest of your night, and yeah.